Hi everybody!
Getting into a new genre of video game can be daunting. It's doubly so if you're potentially interested in games that are massive time sinks. RPGs tend to be time-consuming affairs. JRPGs are no exception. On the shorter side, you're looking at 20 to 30 hour games. However, if you're looking at the longer end, such as the Trails games, you're likely in excess of 100 hours if you're going for a completionist run. In this video, I'm going to explore the top 5 JRPGs that are friendly for newcomers either because they have simplistic mechanics or can be completed relatively quickly. Thanks to Square Enix, I got a review key for Octopath Traveler 2, which also happens to be one of the games I was most excited to play this year. I gave my initial thoughts on the game in a separate video, so watch until the end if you want to see that one. Overall, I am liking Octopath Traveler 2. It does have some esoteric game designs, but you have to keep in mind this game is trying to mimic titles from the SNES and the PS1. So some of the design language is paying homage to the JRPGs of those eras. The quirks won't be for everyone, but the game is great for newcomers as the mechanics are relatively simple for the most part, and the game does do a good job of drip-feeding mechanics to the player instead of inundating them with information and lengthy tutorials. Because Octopath Traveler 2 is easy to play and is a bare-bones JRPG, it's the perfect gateway game. Also, the story is, to say the least, intriguing. However, we do have better entries later on for the JRPG newcomer. Because of the esoteric design and multi-classing being moderately frustrating is why Octopath places so low on this list. Overall, a great game though. Final Fantasy X is quite possibly my favorite Final Fantasy title of all time. It's a fun game with simplistic turn-based combat that is easy to grasp, and if you want to absolutely break the game's mechanics, you can do that with proper grinding and farming. But that's not something most beginners will care about. Chances are, if you're a newcomer to RPGs, you're going to play them for the story more than the mechanics. Thankfully, Final Fantasy X is mechanically rich. Just be aware that some things from this game have not aged well, such as yeah, that was cringy then and it's still cringe. But despite the cringe factor, Final Fantasy X does have one of the nicest stories I've experienced in gaming, and the combat is so engaging that I will always look for reasons to revisit Spira, and I play this game once a year. I really need to get back to streaming this game though. Anyways, next entry. The PSP was an amazing little system for JRPGs. It was stuffed to the gills with them. Lunar Silver Star Harmony is a remake of the original Lunar game that came out for the Sega Genesis and was later remade for the PlayStation 1. Lunar Silver Star Harmony was basically one of my jump-on points for JRPGs. It has simple gameplay like all of the games on this list, but it rewards players who are willing to explore the mechanics of the game further. The game's combat takes place on a grid and gives an isometric view of the battlefield. The sprites are charming and well animated, and this game is screaming for an HD 2D remake. If you value amazing soundtracks, and if you value competently told and pretty good stories that would fit in with mid to late 90s shonen anime, then this is a great game for you to check out. You can also still get it if you have a PS Vita, as you can grab it on the PlayStation Store. Persona 5 Royal is probably one of the biggest budget JRPGs on the market, and it shows. The game oozes charm. It's also the most refined and beginner-friendly JRPG for newcomers who are interested in the Persona franchise. For those not in the know, Persona games are a spin-off of the infamous Shin Megami Tensei games, which are known to be notoriously difficult and at times downright unfair to the player. Persona games are sometimes referred to as baby's first SMT by the tryhards of the community. Anyways, Persona 5 Royal is actually in my top 15 video games of all time. If you want to see that video, let me know in the comments. Anyways, Persona 5 is one of the best games ever made, as Atlus managed to fire on all cylinders for this title. The music is great, the characters are charming and likable, and the story deals with themes that someone in their late teens would be going through, but it never feels like Persona 5 Royal is talking down to its audience to make the themes and content more easily digestible. There are others who are far more qualified than I am who can talk about the psychology of the Persona series, so if that interests you, check it out. There are a few YouTubers who have excellent content on the subject. The story of P5 is also pretty damn good, and it features one of my all-time favorite video game characters in Sojiro Sakura, known in the Persona community as Coffee Dad. I love the character so much, I've even cosplayed as him. A picture of that cosplay will be popping up on screen now. This game is just an excellent option for anyone who's new to JRPGs, as it offers so much. Also, it's basically on everything at this point in time, so you have no excuse not to try it. This game is basically one of the best options for newcomers. It's easy to figure out how things work, despite being deep with all the different mechanics. It's also the most refined Persona game to date. Basically, play this game. For a lot of millennials, myself included, Pokemon Red and Blue were their gateway games into JRPGs. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with it. In adulthood, less so. However, I have strong memories of going into EB Games, now called GameStop, and asking the staff to suggest similar games to Pokemon to me because I lacked the terminology to say JRPG. What can I say? I was a kid. I didn't have internet access, and I just wanted more turn-based combat. No one at my local EB Games was able to suggest anything, so I just played games like Digimon when I could get a hold of those. It's thanks to Pokemon Blue that I've become the gamer I am today. I didn't really get into JRPGs until my 20s though. Anyways, Pokemon games, if you're just focusing on finishing the story, are some of the more simplistic RPGs on the market, making them great games for newbies. If you're looking at joining the more competitive end of Pokemon though, you're in for a rough ride, as some of these gamers have it down to a bloody science. But if you're looking for a simple RPG that's easy to get into, or if you have a young person in your life who's obsessed with Pokemon, or is just looking for a gateway game, it's hard not to recommend the modern titles, even if some of them have had controversies surrounding them. So there's my list, guys. What did you think of my picks? What are some games you'd personally put on your list? Let me know in the comments. If I compile enough games mentioned in the comments, I'll do a commenters edition. Don't forget to like and subscribe. 2 of my previous videos will be popping up on screen now. One is my initial impressions on Octopath Traveler 2, and the other is my list of games deserving a remake or a remaster. Check them out. Until next time, keep blazing that trail.